Hi everybody, this is Miss Samantha, the ecology and gardening teacher at Low Country Montessori School in Beaufort, South Carolina. And it is a beautiful fall day, October 2nd to be exact. And today we're going to explore Miss Lindsay and Miss Laura's new classroom garden. This used to be Mr. Jordan and Miss Caitlin's class's garden, but we've switched, so we've moved all your furniture over here, and lucky you guys get a shade structure to hang out under. And what is the theme of this garden? Well, this garden is called the Bog Garden. And what is a bog? Well, a bog is a habitat where you have standing water, and we don't always have standing water here. When it rains, we do get, if you see this ditch right here, that's where the roof drains when it rains, and we do get standing water every once in a while. And this is a plant that likes to grow around a lot of water. You may know it as an elephant ear. It is a huge tropical plant, not native to South Carolina, and there are a lot of different species, but underground you have what's called a tuber, which is sort of like a big potato. So tubers are roots that hold a lot of nutrition, and actually some of these species are edible. In places like Hawaii, they grow taro, which is related to the elephant ear, and it is a highly honored plant among the native Hawaiians because they had survived hard times by eating the tuber roots of these plants. So always good to know about your local plants. And here what we have is a little carnivorous bog garden that is in a pot that has no drainage. So you can see it's really wet. The students and I drilled some holes in the side so it wouldn't fill up with standing water like above the ground, but there is water being held below the ground. And a lot of times in bogs you have poor soil quality. So we were really picky about what soil we put in here. There's some perlite, which is made out of volcanic rock, so that lets a lot of airflow into the soil, and there's some sand and some peat moss. So peat is actually a plant that grows in peat bogs. So when people want to make their own bog gardens at home, a lot of times peat is recommended, usually about 50% peat and then 50% either sand or perlite. So you're really not putting a lot of nutrition into the soil, and that's good for these carnivorous plants because they don't need a lot of nutrition. They will supplement their diet by eating insects. So they are carnivores, which means they are meat eaters. And what happens is the little fly flies into here. This is called a pitcher plant because it looks like a pitcher. And then when it does that, the plant will actually close the lid, and it will start releasing digestive juices into these tubes, and it will digest the insect. And it has like a sweet smelling nectar at the bottom to tempt the insect in. So I'm getting a little bit rough with it. I don't want you guys to get this rough with it, but I just, for this video, want you to see the inside, and that's what the insect is going to see. Now some pitcher plants actually have little windows in the back that trick the insects, so the insects try to escape through the window, but they can't. It's just like a clear filament of the plant, and that keeps them from escaping through the right direction. Now you can see there aren't any weeds growing in this little miniature bog garden, and we want to keep all the weeds out because these plants that have specialized to survive in this really poor soil aren't used to having weeds in the poor soil because the other plants usually can't survive. So it does not like competition. And there's a couple different species of native pitcher plant in South Carolina. Another carnivorous plant that's native to South Carolina that you may have heard of is the Venus flytrap, but it is an endangered species, so if you ever find one in the wild, do not pick it. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why they are endangered. But we can order some that have been propagated in a nursery, and hopefully we can add some Venus flytraps to our collection. Here we have obedient plant, which has been in some of the other videos. You probably remember that when you push it, it stays where you put it, and that's why it's called the obedient plant. And it likes to grow where there's lots of water, so we also have it in a pot that does not drain. Now, you may have noticed that I have all of your pots piled up in one spot instead of out amongst the picnic tables like they usually are during the school year. And that's because it's just too darn hot out there during the summertime. So if you have pots, they dry out faster than if you put a plant in the ground. So you have to water them a lot, and in the summertime, they might not be able to live out in full sun. They have to be moved to the shade, and here they also get some drips off the roof, which helps keep them wet. So it's cooled down. It's just the beginning of October, so we could start moving them back out as things cool down. They can handle some more sun. In this little box garden, the alyssum is coming back. You may remember it was in full bloom when you left in the spring, but it got really hot. It died back completely. In the summer, it just couldn't survive, but it left seed before it died, and now the new seeds have sprouted. So this is an annual plant, which means it's not growing back from the original roots of last year's plant. Those are dead, but it left seeds, and it reproduces from seeds. So it's a new plant every year. So what else do we have in this beautiful garden? We have a red maple. This is native to South Carolina, and it was chosen for the Bog Garden because it also likes swampy lowlands. So if you have a lot of red maple on your property, that means your property is probably prone to flooding, which the red maple actually likes. So this leaf will turn bright red pretty soon, in about another month or so, and that's how it gets its name. It is the most common tree in North America, believe it or not. We have some peach trees, which are not native. They've been hybridized, but we do think that there were native versions of peaches here. At least they've been here in North America for a really long time. Here we have the succulent garden. I hope some of you remember planting this with me if you're in Mr. Jordan's class. It was just a few little pieces of succulent that we just broke a couple pieces off and just stuck them in the ground, and now look how they have grown. So we talked about how hot it is out here, and it is. So really the only thing you can grow in these raised beds that dry out faster are succulents, but look at them grow. So this plant here is called portulaca, and there's a bunch of different kinds of portulaca, and I'm not even sure if that's its scientific name, but that's what they call it at the nursery where you buy it. And you can see it has a lot of buds. So buds are what comes before the flower. That's how you know the flower's coming. And these were actually blooming like crazy yesterday, and I came out to get my camera in the evening, and they had already closed. So these close for the evening, and then they sometimes only last for a couple days. So all the blooms from yesterday have already died. So I missed them. So in nature, timing is everything. It's always Very important to think about timing when you're gardening, to think about the seasons, to think about the conditions in the place where you're planting the plant. So when you plant a plant, you don't decide where to put it based on how you think it will look or where you want it to be because you think that's where it will be pretty. You think, what are the conditions in this location and what conditions does the plant need? And that's how you make your decisions. So in nature's in charge. We don't get to make nature accommodate our schedules or our plans. We should make our plans around nature's natural seasons. And that's what we did here. We have, besides the portulaca, we have this plant down here, which is a type of sedum, and it's not blooming yet, and it'll bloom a little bit later in the season. It has a yellow bloom. So we'll do another video when that blooms. And that's how nature planned it, because, you know, when these portulaca stop blooming, the bees and the butterflies are still going to be hungry, and each plant can't bloom forever. It usually has just one part of the year that it can put out those resources to make flowers. And so nature made it so that at different times of year there's always different things blooming, so that the birds and the butterflies always have something to eat. This is one of my favorite plants. It is just a wild weed. It is called tickweed, but we sometimes call it dartweed because you can take these little darts off and then throw them at your friend, and then it just sticks to, when you throw it, it just sticks like that, like a little dart. And that is an adaptation the plant has. Why do you think the plant wants to stick to you? It's not just for fun. What do you think is inside here? We'll give you a hint. This started out as the flower. So first you have a flower, and then you have seed. And where do seeds want to go? Do they want to live right underneath their mom and dad? No, when they grow up, they want to go grow somewhere new and colonate new lands. So seeds have all different ways of hitching rides, either on the wind or on your clothes or on animals, to go discover new places, because they can't just get up and walk to new places like we can. They have to come up with some creative ideas. So that is the Bog Garden. We have moved the pond over to Mr. Jordan's new yard, and so it will be there for you guys when you make it to upper elementary. Here we have a native milkweed, hasn't bloomed yet. And here's another native plant called Coreopsis. Very cute and beautiful. So I will be waiting to see you guys when you come back to school. I'm so excited for that day. And keep strong, keep appreciating nature, and never forget to smile.